Today we follow up on the GAMA Trade Show of 2013 and recognize the loss of some loved ones in the industry.
Hello and welcome to Pulp Gamer Prime. I'm Scott Forster.
And I'm Don Dem. Today we have several success stories across the network to report on, and we just returned from the GAMA Trade Show 2013. We're going to take a look.
But first, on a more solemn note, the game industry has had a rough start to the year, losing several prominent members. At the end of February, at the age of 81, Alan Calamer died. He, of course, was the inventor of the board game Diplomacy, which he self-published back in 1959. He came up with Diplomacy while attending Harvard Law School, but while it was very popular there, it was his one and only published game. Mr. Calamer eventually became a postal carrier, and he retired about 20 years ago. Diplomacy is still in print. It is being published by Wizards of the Coast, and you can play it for free on many different websites.
Shortly thereafter, we learned that PHYLLIS OPOLKO passed away on March 4th. She'd been battling an illness for a short period of time. PHYLLIS was the senior sales manager for Diamond Comics and Alliance Game Distribution. While I didn't know her personally, I do have a lot of friends that did know her. She was regarded as a very talented individual. Her influence can be seen throughout the game industry, and she's going to be sorely missed by a lot of people. Then on March 11th, we lost Richard Martin Leep as he passed away unexpectedly in his sleep. Richard was one of the driving forces behind the Greater Games Industry catalog. He had spent quite a few nights with having drinks with him at various conventions all over the place. While we'll probably learn more about Richard in the coming issue of the Greater Games Quarterly Catalog, as the crew there are going to be working through this mourning period, but business will continue as usual.
And just this past week, TODD BREITENSTEIN died at the age of 47 after a 9-month battle with cancer. TODD designed the Zombies board game while he was working for the U.S. Playing Card Company. They cut their board game division, so he and his wife Carrie decided to start their own company, Twilight Creations, to keep zombies in print. For the past 11 years, the company has just pretty much been the two of them, but with Todd's illness, they did get the kids involved, and they just posted on their website on Thursday that they are going to keep the company going in honor of Todd's memory.
So a rough start, like you said.
Indeed.
Lost a lot of people. Also, Coleman Charlton, from Mayfair Games, had lost his wife throughout this month as well. So it has been a really trying period for a lot of people.
It has. But business must go on. And just last week, we traveled to Las Vegas for the GAMA Trade Show. The show continues to grow, with numbers up for the past 3 years. Don will have a detailed look at those numbers in a bit. But first, I was mostly distracted by all the shiny toys. WizKids has licensed Fantasy Flight's X-Wing miniatures system for an upcoming Star Trek game called Attack Wing. They had some oversized ships set up in the demo room so you could play the game. We learned at the show through ICV2 that X-Wing was the second best-selling miniatures game of the fourth quarter of 2012, outselling everything but 40K. We've seen it at conventions for the past 2 years, but Mage Wars is finally out, and it's doing well. I finally got a chance to elbow my way through a demo line and play. Stop me if you've heard this one. It's a game where you play a spellcaster who puts together a spellbook out of cards. Now, the thing that sets it apart from another game that might sound like that is you actually get this little binder and you put your cards in, and you can go through that binder like your spellbook at any time and pull out a spell to play, and it's played on a board, and you move your guys around and you roll dice, and it's very interesting. It's been getting great reviews. They sold 3,000 copies just in the past month, and something like over 15,000 since they released at the end of last summer. So that is the hot new game, and when I finally got a chance to play it, had a blast. We also got a chance to look at the new Flux board game, which will be out this summer, probably, which takes all the craziness of Flux and adds a changeable board, while still playing quick. I enjoyed the extra level of strategy, felt like I had a little more control over, the craziness that is Flux, but that might have all been an illusion. We also saw several groups of people who brought their prototypes to GTS to try and meet a publisher or someone, to get their name out there. And I saw at least one, this interstellar, scavenger hunt called Chaosmos, that they say They struck a deal during the show, but they can't announce anything. That's a new developer, Mirrorbox Game, just formed this year, went to GTS, found a publisher for their new game. So that's a pretty cool story. Lots of new exciting toys to play with, but it was a trade show after all. Don, tell me about the numbers.
You sound like you're bored with business, Scott.
I don't know what would give you that impression.
You're absolutely right. The show numbers have been increasing, but this wasn't the case 4 years ago when the GAMA Trade Show was trending downward. And matter of fact, many were skeptical that we should even have a traditional trade show. But John Ward, executive director of the Game Manufacturers Association, through his actions said, "We're doing this," and rallied the support of the entire industry, bringing the number of sponsors to this show that used to be 3 just 4 years ago up to, let's see, 26 is the number I have here.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot more involvement in the show. As you can see, that slow, steady effort has really reinvigorated that show and started now to show, as you can see by our numbers, that upward trend. The show had reached an all-time low in 2010 at 278 and has now climbed to 481. This represented 148 unique stores, rising to almost twice that. Now, if you look at the graph in comparison to the number of retailers that come to the show compared to the number of unique retailers, you can see that while the number of unique retailers has grown, just the sheer number of retailers themselves, all retailer badges, has grown even more than that. That gap representing that each one of those individual locations are bringing more people to show. And this is largely due to a lot of the increased educational track programming that is going on at the show.
Right.
Also, of course, there was the manufacturer track programming that was also new, bringing a lot of these young manufacturers aboard and educating, giving them some of the education they need in order to grow at a rapid pace. We should also mention that 9 of those seminars were recorded and are being produced by Pulp Gamer Productions. To be given back to GAMA, and GAMA is going to distribute them through their membership at some point in time in the future. So be looking for that from GAMA. So yeah, overall the show has been going very well.
So that was a lot of good news, Don. How do they have any challenges looking to the future, or what?
Well, the biggest challenge this year actually was because the numbers were actually higher than expected. So there were some food lines that got a little bit, frustrating, right. I think. So, and I think the way John had talked about battling that problem next year is through the pre-registration program, just by getting more people, just understanding better who's coming to the show and making better plans for the show. Hopefully we can take care of that. John had also mentioned that he wanted to flesh out the manufacturer's track even more, so that there's going to be some more programming in that area as well. But all in all, if the graph means anything, it's trending upwards. We should see more retailers. And now that we've seen more than this is the most that John Ward has worked with. When he first joined GAMA, it was trending downward. We all blamed it on the times,
Right.
But obviously, it just took a few different strategies and a lot of hard work. So congratulations to John and all the staff there at GAMA.
Indeed. I've been to GAMA for 3 years now, and yeah, there's so much going on. I can see why these stores are sending more people, because you got 7 seminars going on at the same time.
Well, and also there's stuff to do in Las Vegas.
What?
I know it's a good time. I was
middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I seldom don't have time to. I know a lot of people do though. They spend that extra time to go to Vegas and soak in a couple of shows or. Sure. Gamble or whatever it is. There's a lot to do in Vegas.
I've got an expense report for Cirque du Soleil. Can I turn that in?
Yeah, well, let's take a look at that. You do from detail analysis. But let's move on. There is some exciting things. We promised you that there was some neat things going on in the network. We have 3 of our productions across the network that have been selected for screening at the Phoenix Comicon. Starting with John, the Alien Chronicles, that wacky alien that turns himself in for interrogation. Right. This one is produced by our friends at Rob Eric Media. We also have the Bob and Angus show that we do with Mayfair Games. That one has been selected and also is up for several awards, as well as The Adventures of Silver and Brass, that silent steampunk comedy that we produced on Pocket Change. But that was a lot of fun. Both of those shows are up for Best Web Series. One of them's for Best in Gaming, one's for Best in Steampunk. and I think Best in Arizona, and Best Looking Producer. I think I may have made that one up.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Okay, so anyway, no, but it is really exciting. I'm looking forward to going to Phoenix Comicon.
Yeah.
They have exploded over the past few years to now include, a ton of film and TV guests. So I'm very excited to be going back to that and seeing. And we're going to see if we can't squeeze in a couple of panels, into the program. We're working with them on that. So that is, Memorial Day weekend. So check it out. Come enjoy, watch our productions and the many other exciting things that are going to be there.
Awesome.
Mage Wars, new game. Isn't that weird? We've been hearing about it for 3 years now.
It's been a new game forever. It's like a video game.
I know. I know it. So, inside joke, but to those of you that haven't been following, that one finally came out really at just late last year.
It came out at Gen Con last year. We first talked about it on the audio, the old version of Out of Character after Origins of 2011.
Yeah, they did a pre-release look for the it's like 2 years we're looking at the because they just kept working it. Apparently that's paying off. It sounds like it's going really well. Yeah, it seems
to be going really well.
So great guys over at Arcane Wonders. Thanks.
So listen to us. Whatever we say could come true.
It could come true. It could not, but it could.
You never know.
Really. Bye.
No.
PulpGamer.com